All right, so now I'm going to, with my new gamboge, I'm going to paint in the, is this the pistil or the stamen? Pistil, I think, of the calla lily. And I'm going to get that going. All right, now, one thing that's really nice about watercolor, you always have two things of water, one to clean your brush and the other with clean water in it. The cellulose sponge that I'm using is essentially to control the amount of water that's in the belly of the paintbrush. This is a white flower, but it's not entirely white. So I have to add color in the shadows, and that's how it starts to shape. So I'm going to make sort of a neutral gray color, and I made the neutral gray by mixing a little bit of my blue with a little bit of red and a little bit of green, and that will give you a gray, a very nice neutral color. And I'm going to put it into the areas of the calla lily where I see the shadows. And the shadows are, again, as I mentioned before, what actually shapes the calla lily and tells you how the petals are formed. Now, I'm putting it in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to soften these edges by putting clean water on my brush and just softening these edges so that they're not lines. I want them to be soft, but I don't want them to look like I've painted all these lines in. You have to work pretty quickly for this because otherwise your paint will dry. It'll absorb into the paper and you won't be able to get your lines to smooth out. So you want to be not very timid. You want to really make sure you get that in there pretty quickly. Then when you actually have water on your brush in that area, then you can go back in with a little bit more color to put in there. So now I'm going to go back in with this sort of neutral gray shade. It's a little deeper now since I picked up more color. And I'm going to just go back through, and because I'm putting it on wet, it's going to smooth out a lot more easily than it did initially, because I was doing wet on dry. Now, what's really important is that, as I mentioned before, you work on all parts of the painting kind of simultaneously, that you don't finish one part of the painting, because I don't know if that's going to be dark enough or light enough at this point because I haven't got my backgrounds in. So now I'm going to start to put my backgrounds in. And I'm actually going to paint on the areas where I did not put leaves in, because I still have quite a bit. I don't know if you can see the sheen on the paper, but there's still quite a bit of water in this paper. And you do have to let your paper dry before you go on and put another layer on top of it often. You know, sometimes you want to do it wet on wet, but if you're building layers, you want to make sure that your paper is nice and dry first. So I want to mix a very deep color. That red and green that I mixed before is a good place to start. And now I'm going to add some of my Prussian blue, which is a very deep blue. So I'm going to put that in there. And look at that beautiful dark, neutral dark that it gives me. It's really lovely. All right, So now I'm going to go into my painting and I'm going to put this neutral dark in the areas that outline some of these leaves. And I may have to do another layer of this, but I won't know until I start working on the leaves. So I can see how deep this is and what color, or what else I have to do to make it look dark enough, because I want it to be almost black. And watercolor artists, there are many that subscribe to the practice of only using 3 colors, your 3 primary colors. So that would be a red, a yellow, and a blue. And you can mix every other color, including black, and you can get that with just the 3 colors. And it's really amazing. I have seen paintings that have done with just using the 3 primary colors, and you would swear that they used paints right out of tubes in all these various colors. You can mix amazing colors. So I would challenge you to spend an afternoon or an evening and take your paper and mix all different colors and write down what colors you've mixed to make the various shades. Now, you'll notice I'm turning my block around because I want to make sure that I'm getting these edges where I want the dark exactly right. And it's sometimes easier to paint if I'm close to the edge rather than reaching over the whole painting. So this is why I'm doing this. The other thing to remember when you're doing watercolor is if you're painting a large area in your painting, make sure you mix enough paint so that you can cover your whole area. I may have said that already, but I can't emphasize that enough. You don't want to stop in the middle of painting something and have to remix your color and find out that you can't get exactly the same color. Very much a drag. It's not fun. And it slows you down, and doesn't really need to happen, actually. Okay. So, this is my first layer in a 4-layer process. And this is really sort of what I call color blocking. And the color blocking is that you put the colors that are going to pretty much end up being the color of that area in the painting, and you put your first light layer in. Now I'm not doing light with this background because I know I want to go almost to black with this background, so I mixed a deeper color. This is not a pastel, as you can tell, but it's going to give me the drama that I want around this calla lily. And because I'm not trying to make it look like a photograph, I want it to look like a painting. My leaves and some of the other elements will be a little looser. And that's very much a style. You may want to do photographic work, and if you do, you're going to spend a little bit more time on your paintings because it's more meticulous. But if you want to get the feeling of it, and that's what's nice about any artwork, is what you're really trying to do is portray a feeling. If you're working on a landscape, is the landscape, is it moody? Is it wet? Is it rainy? Is it snowy? Is it bright sunshine? Is it a bright blue day? All of that can be, is it foggy? All of that can be depicted with the colors that you choose and how you apply the paints. If it's a foggy day, then you can have everything be soft lines. Everything would blend into each other and really create that feeling of fog. I did a painting of Big Ben, Westminster Abbey in England, and it was one of those foggy days, and it really turned out well because it was all just very soft all the way around it. So you'll notice again I shifted my block so that I can get into some very delicate little areas with my paint, my dark paint. And I'm using a fairly large brush, but it has a very good point. And I can show you the point if you can see it. This is a 14 or 16, I think. And I usually use 16s most of the time. I use large brushes. Now I can see always your watercolors will dry lighter than you apply them. So you have to get used to that because you think, oh my gosh, look at that, so dark, and you think, oh, it's too dark. But watercolors dry lighter. So I can already see that I'm going to need to apply another layer of this dark. And here again, I didn't mix enough, so I'm going to go back and mix more. There we go. And let's see if it's the same color. It may not be, but it's okay. It's separated from everything else. Well, it's pretty close to the same color. I think I have a little bit more water in this batch. That's why I say it's really important for you to mix enough of the paint when you're working on a large area so that you don't have to go back and remix. Because that combination of water versus pigment is always hard to duplicate exactly. So you want to get it done once and right. Okay. So I'm almost done with putting in my background. I want it to all look like it's part of the same painting here. And then I'll go back because my vegetation, my leaves have actually dried enough. I can go back and I can start to detail those. And those are in my second layer, which, as I said before, is where you want to start shaping your vegetation. Okay, let me just do this. And the last area. Okay. All right. So now I have it blocked in pretty much. Now I'm going to start to create more of the shapes of the leaves. So I want to go back to, I want to have a nice clean yellow. This is my aureolin. I want a little of the new gamboge, which is more the orangey yellow. And then I want to mix a green. I want to pull greens from here. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to start to shape the leaves a little bit more. And you want to wait until your paper is dry so that you don't have blends that go into each other, or bleeds actually. All right. So I've just put lines down for this leaf, and now I'm going to just blend them with a little bit of water on my brush. I want to keep the edge of this particular leaf sort of yellow looking, because it is yellow in this photograph. So I'm just going to soften those lines with clean water on the brush. And I'm going to go back in with my aureolin yellow and just emphasize the edge. A little bit more, and it'll blend into the rest of the leaf. Okay, now the leaf next to it also has a little yellow edge, so I'm going to make sure I apply that, and then it looks a little bit bluer green to me, so I'm going to mix some more of my blue, and I'm going to put that blue-green in and start to shape how that leaf goes down. And I want it dark against the calla lily, because I want that calla lily to really pop. So I want to get it pretty dark around that. And it goes all the way down to here, and then I get some basic lighter leaf that breaks over. So that's this one. And it has a nice undulating pattern to it. It goes all the way down that I see. Okay. And I'm going to make the leaf that's on the outside edge even, I'm going to put a little bit of red in with this blue-green. That's a lot of red. Okay, let's see. Let's go back here, add some of this. And this is why it's very, very important for you to play around with your paints and mix your colors and get to know what colors you can make out of the paints that you have in your palette. You'll notice that with this leaf, I put a little bit of red into the green mixture. Reds and greens are exactly opposite on the color wheel, so that means that they're complementary. Well, I wanted a different color. I didn't want every leaf to be the same color. So that is why I did it this way. And you'll see how that just brings another level to this. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of that sort of more olive green up here in this leaf as well. So it's kind of around both ends of this leaf in the middle. Okay. Now, I have to, as I'm painting these, I have to decide, is it dark enough, light enough, what else do I need to do for these? So it's good to have lots of different shades that you can mix so that you know that you have some options. Here I've mixed darker of this olive color, and I've just put it in, laid it in, and it's wet on wet, so it blends perfectly. All right, I like that.